Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to BookFlix Live. Today, we are going to have our 8th episode. Before starting today's episode, I would like to sincerely thank you for your love and support. It is indeed because of your invaluable love and support that I'm able to conduct this show so successfully, and I'll keep needing your love and support in the times to come as well. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past few episodes, we had been discussing about the proven frameworks which has been presented by this Amazon India bestseller book called Life Without If. And we will continue to have this conversation for the next couple of episodes. I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, you are getting some valuable insights from this amazing book called Life Without If. I'm personally getting a lot of learnings from this book, and it is really exciting. Friends, I'm really happy and excited to share with you that tonight we are going to have the very amazing co-author of this book, Life Without If, Mr. Joy King Birze, the very inspiring, successful person who has written over 100 books successfully. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's welcome our today's guest, Mr. Joy King Birze. Mr. Joy King Birze, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to BookFlix Live episode number 8.
Thank you so much. It is a real pleasure to be back on your podcast and eager to answer the questions.
Mr. Joy, I would like to thank you and Sudipto sir for giving me time for 2 episodes wherein I could summarize all the learnings from the previous chapters that we have discussed in the previous episodes. And believe you me, it was really exciting. I personally learned a lot when I actually reviewed all the learnings and summarized in terms of how we can apply those learnings in our own lives. I'm sure our viewers also would have got benefited from that. Having said that, I would like to come to our today's episode. Mr. Joy, we are going to discuss 3 chapters of this book today. The chapters of chapter number 10, 11, and 12. And we will start with chapter number 10. In this chapter, Mr. Joy, you have mentioned about shifting from dependency mindset to adaptability mindset. With respect to this, when I look back to my past experiences, I have seen many people who has much higher level of potential, but somehow they are not able to leverage that. Probably they have some mindset issues, maybe fear. And because of that, what actually happens is that they actually know that they are made for something else, something much higher, but they are somewhere comfortable with a secure job because they are not taking that particular steps or the risk and leverage their highest potential. And that's why they are somehow stuck. You and Sudipto sir have done a detailed research on this particular subject. And I really like the real life example that you had picked up, the real life example of Mr. Aman Burma. I'd like to request you just to take our viewers through the insights that you have been able to gather from the research on the life of Mr. Aman Burma and how this mindset called dependency mindset actually looks like in our everyday life and what are the impacts on our lives or our future. Over to you.
This is an excellent question. You know what breaks my heart when Sudipto sir and I started to talk about people, who relate to this chapter. We met some incredibly smart, talented individuals who are living really small lives. Not because they lack the ability, but because they are trapped in what we call a dependency mindset. And the golden handcuffs metaphor, which we use in this chapter, is actually perfect because that is exactly what it feels like. Let's paint a picture of what dependency looks like in daily life. It's the person who's been at the same job for 10 years making decent money, good benefits, steady routine, but they know deep down that they could do more. They could start their own business, or maybe switch their careers to something that they are more passionate about, or maybe even move to a different city altogether, for better opportunities. But what do? They stay put because they are dependent on external security. Questions like, if only I had more savings, I would try this. Or if my family was more supportive, I could take this risk. And lots of such things, This is so familiar to all of us. There are people who always wait for external validation or perfect safety because before they make a bold move. And this mindset is really insidious. That is why we have dedicated an entire chapter to exposing and correcting this mindset. The greatest threat in this mindset is that feels responsible. It feels mature. You feel that, okay, I'm not being reckless, I'm being practical, I'm thinking about my family's future and security. But that is not what we are doing. What you're doing is you're outsourcing your life's direction to circumstances which are not in your control. The correct way to think about it is that the dependency person has an external locus of control. They believe that life happens to them. Success depends on good luck, getting good bosses, good economy, good timing, things like that, which are not in their control. You know, and we have identified 8 key traits of dependency behavior in this book. And when people read them, they often have this moment of painful recognition. Things like lack of self sufficiency or fear of abandonment, emotional reactivity, very common that when people are faced with change, they panic. Things like, if I leave my job, everything might fall apart. This emotional response is very disproportionate, and so it stops you from making even small changes. It makes you think that, okay, this is impossible. What Sudipto sir and I discovered in our research is that this mindset often starts with good intentions. You are thought to be dependable, don't rock the boat, prioritize security. These are all good values, but somewhere along the way they get morphed into paralysis. Being dependable changes into being dependent. you know Prioritizing security changes into fearing all risk. Another thing about a dependency kind of person is that they generally struggle with poor boundaries. They can't say no to extra work, extra commitments, extra expectations from others. You know uh, then they are at times responsibility avoidance is another key trait, because they don't own their decisions. They look to others to blame or to fix their problem. For instance, if my boss gave me better projects, I would have advanced. So you're trying to find reasons, not taking ownership, which is the real goal. Now, why does this trap happen to capable people? Because it is comfortable in the short term. The steady paycheck feels so secure, the familiar routine feels so safe. But in the long term, it's devastating. You're trading your potential for comfort. You're letting prime years slip by, waiting for permission that never comes. In this book, we show you exactly how to recognize these patterns in yourself, because most people living dependently don't even see it. They think they are being smart, they are being patient and responsible, but actually they are just waiting for life to give them permission to live. The need is to shift to adaptability, which we explore in depth in this chapter. It's about relocating your power from external circumstances to your internal resourcefulness. It's about asking, what can I do with what I actually have right now? Because here's the truth that everyone needs to grasp. Perfect conditions never arrive. The supportive family, the perfect timing, the ideal economy, the day when your savings account is full, those things don't magically happen. Waiting for them is like waiting for a bus that is never going to come. Smart, capable people get trapped in dependency because they overestimate the security of staying put. More importantly, they underestimate their own adaptability. They don't recognize that the real risk is not taking action. The real risk is inaction. The real danger isn't failing at something new. The real danger is succeeding at something that you hate for the rest of your life. That is what this chapter is about.
That's truly awesome, Mr. Joy. Thank you so much for elaborating so well in a very, very easy to understand manner. I'm sure our viewers are taking note of all these important points. And if any of our viewers have any questions, you can please ask to the number which has been shared below this screen. Having said that, Mr. Joy, I would like to continue with the research that you have done on Mr. Aman Verma's real life. It's really, really mind blowing the kind of step that he had taken in his journey, because from a very, very secure, comfortable job, he has taken that big jump and completely transformed his life. But if I just place myself in his position, at that moment in time when he was about to take this shift or this transformation, I think for anybody it would have been difficult, isn't it? Because moving from a very, very secure and safe job and taking that risk, I know that he is now successful, and that's why we're discussing this particular example. But when he would have started, as a human being, he would have felt the same kind of emotions that we are discussing now. So, here I would like to ask basically, what are the few practical steps that our viewers can actually apply in their work? Here, basically, what I would like to ask you is that what are the few practical steps that our viewers can implement in their lives to make a shift from so called safe and secure job to actually leveraging their highest potential and going for this transformation in life? Over to you.
Aman Gupta's story is one of readers' absolute favorites in this book because it is such a perfect illustration, of moving from dependency to adaptability. When Sudipta sir and I were researching this topic, what struck us most was that Aman wasn't some kind of superhero entrepreneur from day one. What made him remarkable was his ability to adopt with what he actually had. He didn't wait for what he wished he had. Now, picture this: Aman is working solid corporate jobs at Citibank and KPMG. Good money, prestige, stability, the kind of jobs people dream about. But around him, he sees colleagues who are smart, ambitious, but stuck. They are saying things like, if only I had more capital, I would start my own business. Uh, but what does Aman do? He does something different. He doesn't wait for perfect safety. He looks at what he actually has. He has an understanding of consumer needs. He has some market knowledge, and he has his own vision and determination. That's not much, but he starts right there. So here's the first massive lesson from Aman's journey. Adaptability isn't about having all the resources upfront. It's about starting with whatever you have and iterating as you go. He didn't launch boat with millions in funding and a perfect business plan. He studied the audio market, understood what Indian consumers actually wanted that global brands weren't providing, and he started small. The second most important lesson is break massive challenges into smaller, manageable pieces. Instead of being overwhelmed by build a consumer's electronic empire, Aman tackled understand what consumers need, then test your basic products, and then create India specific solutions. All these are small adoptive steps which built momentum and confidence in his process. Third lesson: when competing against giants, don't try to beat them at their own game. Adopt to find your own unique advantage. He adopted by creating products tailored specifically for Indian consumers, where he could deliver value which those bigger players ignored. Fourth lesson: treat setbacks as data, not defeat. Every failure, every product that didn't work Every misstep in the market, Aman analyzed, adopted, and tried something different. He wasn't afraid to fail because he saw each failure as valuable information or data which he could use for the next adaptation. He wasn't naturally fearless, like mind you. Leaving a secure corporate job, it takes guts. But he built adaptability as a muscle, step by step. And all of us can do that too. We can do what we call the resource audit. Write down everything you have right now, your skills, knowledge, relationships, time, small amounts of money. Then identify one area of your life where you're being dependent. Maybe it is your career. You're staying in a stay safe but unfulfilling job. Maybe it is relationships. Then ask yourself, if I had to solve this using only what I currently have, what would my first small step be? Then do it. You need to develop flexibility in your thinking. Dependency forces us to create rigid thinking. This is the only way kind of thinking. But adaptability asks, what are three different ways I could approach this? So we need to train our brain to create and recognize these options, actually to generate these options. Another important step is surround yourself with adaptive people. Create and celebrate these adaptive wins, no matter how small. Every time you solve a problem using what you have instead of what you were wishing for, that's a win. Acknowledge it, celebrate it. Your brain will start seeking more adaptive opportunities. And this is something that we emphasize in this book. You don't need courage or resources to start being adaptable. You need to start acting, and then courage and additional resources will automatically follow. Like in the case of Aman, he didn't have massive courage when he left his job. He built it through adaptive action, and the result is there for all of us to see today. This book walks you through a complete adaptability framework with exercises, assessments, and the key traits of such people, because once you make this shift, then your entire life opens up. Aman Gupta proved you can build world class success from India just by adopting relentlessly with what was available. So, whatever golden handcuffs are holding you back right now, you have more than enough to start adopting today itself.
This is again truly amazing explanation, Mr. Joy. Thank you so much. Mr. Joy, now we will move to chapter number 11. In this chapter, you have mentioned about a shift from hesitation and delay to being confident and action oriented. And I have been really moved to see some of the stories that you have mentioned in this particular chapter, especially your research on the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. All of us know Mahatma Gandhi as that fearless, non-violent oriented leader who has helped us to achieve freedom for the entire nation. But very few people would be knowing the fact that this is the same Gandhiji who ran out of courtroom out of fear once. I just want I just want to request you, Mr. Joy, what are the top insights that you have been able to gather from the research of the real life story of this great personality called Mahatma Gandhiji with respect to the mindset shift that you are talking about in this particular chapter?
When we chose Mahatma Gandhi's example for this chapter, it wasn't because he was always confident. We chose him because he embodies the transformation from hesitation and delay to confident and action oriented better than anyone. The courtroom story where young Gandhi literally fled without saying a word, that's relatable, that's human. Let me paint the picture of what hesitation and delay looks like today. Uh, there's this person with brilliant ideas, genuine talent, real potential, but they never start. They have a business concept, but the thought is, I'm not ready yet. They want to ask for a promotion, but the thought is, I need more experience first. They dream of writing a book, but the thought is, I need to research more. The hesitation and delay person is a master of preparation without action. Endless planning, endless perfecting, endless waiting for the ideal moment, and that ideal moment never comes. We've identified 7 key traits in this book, and they are sneaky because they masquerade once again as responsibility. First is fear of uncertainty, not fear of failure, fear of the unknown. So they stay in familiar situations even if they are mediocre, because at least they are predictable. The next is perfectionism, not healthy standards, but toxic perfectionism, where nothing is ever good enough to start, wait for something even better. Third is a lack of clear goals. Without a compelling North Star, every option looks equally valid. So they drift, analyze, and delay. Fourth is indecisiveness. Even with good information, they can't commit. The pros and cons list, they continue becoming endless loops. Fifth is chronic procrastination. Is this not lazy, anxious procrastination? It's chronic. They tell themselves later will be better. So that kind of mentality. Sixth is overthinking, mental paralysis from playing out every possible scenario. What is the result? You'll exhaust your mental energy without gaining any physical momentum. Seventh is avoidance, sidestepping anything that is uncomfortable. Avoid difficult conversations, avoid taking risk, even avoid opportunities that feel scary. Best to distract themselves with some busy work instead. So here's why this mindset silently kills everything, and why we, Sudipto sir and I, got really passionate about this chapter, because this creates a death spiral for self-belief. It kills ideas, it kills opportunities, and most devastating, it kills self-belief. Every time you delay, you're sending your subconscious a message: I'm not capable. Every time that you don't start, you're reinforcing, that I need perfect conditions. And over time, you literally stop believing in your ability to act. You become an expert at excuses. I'm being strategic, I'm thinking it through, all such reasons, inaction that confirms the fear. And it's fascinating how universal this is. The corporate executive who won't ask for a raise, the artist who won't share their work, the person who wants to make a career change but needs one more certification, the parent who wants better work life balance but can't talk to their boss yet. We call this the perfection trap. You wait for 100% readiness, which never happens. What is the result? You stay at 0% progress. Meanwhile, the people who are confident and action oriented, they will start at 60% or readiness. They learn as they go and end up at 90% through real world experience. Gandhi's early hesitation was extreme, but relatable. He wasn't born a leader. He was paralyzed by public speaking fear. He fled his first court case. He doubted himself constantly. But what happened? He recognized that this pattern was costing him. This shift happens when you realize hesitation isn't protecting you, it's imprisoning you. Every delay reinforces your doubt. Every action, even imperfect action, builds your confidence. And in this book, we show you exactly how to spot these patterns, because they are subtle. You think you're being thoughtful when you're actually being avoidant. Once you see it, it's done. It's locked. Then you cannot unsee it.
That was truly mind blowing, Mr. Joy. Thank you so much. And I really like the idea: celebrate actions, not results. I mean, Bhagavad Gita also talks about it. Karam karo, phal ki chinta na karo. So, continuing the discussion on the life of Mahatma Gandhi, karam karo, phal ki chinta na karo. So, continuing our discussion on Gandhiji's life, Mr. Joy. Gandhiji as a person, he was a fearful guy initially. And a shift from a fearful guy to a very, very powerful, confident guy who actually led the nation to achieve freedom for the entire nation. And this confidence and this fearless personality would not have come overnight. I mean, this personality of fearlessness or being very, very confident would not have happened overnight. What I would like to request you now is, can you please help us to understand what are the few practical steps that our viewers can apply in their lives so that they can also achieve this transformation from being a fearful person, a person who had been continuously postponing because of the fearful mindset, and transform this to a fearless and very confident person. Over to you.
This is where chapter 11 gets really exciting because Gandhi's transformation shows that you don't need to become a different person. You just need to act like the version of yourself which you want to become. Sudipto sir and I break this down into practical, doable steps. For example, use the 2 minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. That sounds so simple. That's the point. Hesitation thrives on momentum. This 2 minute rule breaks the inertia. Email to send 2 minutes, call to make 2 minutes, research a course 2 minutes. These are all small wins which build your action muscle. Another option is create a stop doing list. Hesitation hides in busy work. List three activities that feel productive but delay real progress. Endless research, perfecting documents that nobody is going to see, over preparing your presentations, eliminate them up. Free up mental space for other constructive action. Then third is you can set smart goals. But make the first one very small. Not build a business. Email one potential customer today. Goal should not be a get fit. Goal should be walk 10 minutes after dinner. Small actions like these bypass the hesitation brain's resistance. Momentum creates confidence. Next, you can practice decision making under mild pressure. Set a timer for 5 minutes to make a small decision. What to wear, what to eat, where to sit. Train your brain that decisions don't need to be perfect, but you just need to make your decisions. Fifth is you can use action despite fear technique, which Gandhi had mastered, by the way. Before any scary action, acknowledge the fear. Yes, I am scared to make this call. Then act anyway. Fear doesn't disappear. You just act through it. And each time what happens? Fear loses power. Sixth option is break perfectionism with the good enough start. Set a timer for 25 minutes. Whatever you produce is your starting point. No editing. Done is better than perfect. You can iterate later. Next, you can build what we call action accountability. Tell one person what you're committing to do today. Not for shame of losing, but for momentum. I am sending that proposal by 5 p.m. Simple but powerful. Next, reframe your hesitation as excitement. Fear uh, and excitement are identical. Tell yourself, I'm excited about this opportunity instead of saying I'm scared about this event. Same energy but different story. Visualize the cost of inaction more vividly than the fear of action. Picture 5 years from now still hesitating. That hurts more than any potential failure. Last, celebrate action, not results. Every time that you act despite your hesitation, acknowledge it. I made that call. Win. Results follow action. Confidence follows wins. Gandhi didn't become confident by waiting. He spoke despite stage fright. He organized despite inexperience. He marched despite the risks. Actions built his confidence. You don't need to become Gandhi. Just act like slightly more action oriented version of you. This book gives you our 30-day action accelerator with daily practices. Readers have actually told us that they go from zero starts to multiple projects in a few weeks. Confidence isn't a prerequisite or requisite for action. It is the result of action. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start feeling like a confident you, and eventually that version becomes real.
That's again a really awesome explanation, Mr. Joy. I'm sure our viewers are getting a lot of value from this particular conversation. Mr. Joy, Mr. Joy, we will shift to chapter number 12 now. My next question is, in this chapter, you are introducing a very, very interesting term called building action muscle. And I really liked it. And in this chapter, you have also mentioned about your research on a very, very amazing lady, the lady who has inspired the entire world, who is none other than Oprah Winfrey, who has suffered what not in her life, starting from her family, career, financial problems, what not. And she has completely transformed herself and inspired the world. Mr. Joy, I'd like to request you to talk about this research that you have done on her life. And please share the key learnings from her research for our viewers. Over to you.
Yes, let's talk about this chapter 12. Chapter 12 hits home for so many readers because that lack of control feeling is like an epidemic today. We hear it constantly. I'm working so hard but going nowhere. You know what the truth is? They are often working hard in reaction to circumstances. What you need to do, you need to design that direction. Lack of control looks something like this. Chaos without agency. Bills pile up, so you work overtime reactively. Family demands escalate, so you say yes automatically. Career stalls, so you blame your boss or you blame the economy. You're busy all day, but you feel powerless. Your daily behaviors might include reactive firefighting. Something goes wrong, you scramble to fix it. No time for planning. Emotional reactivity is stress triggers impulsive decisions like comfort eating or online shopping. That's what all of us do, right? Or you are blaming externals. The traffic made me late. The economy killed my salary raise. You're kind of positioning yourself as a victim over here. you know Overwhelm yourself from four boundaries. Everyone else's emergencies become yours. No time for your own goals. You're in short term focus. Quick fixes feel productive, but the truth is that they create bigger problems eventually. It's so inconsistent. You start strong and then you start to derail when life intervenes. Now, the important question to ask and understand over here is, why does this trap hardworking people? Because hardworking people think effort equals control. You know, Hustling feels like your agency, but it's like bailing water from a sinking boat without fixing the leak. You're busy, you're exhausted, but the bottom line is you are still sinking. Lack of control creates learned helplessness. When outcomes feel random despite your effort, you stop believing that your actions matter. Motivation completely crashes. As a result, you work harder to compensate. It's like you're perpetually exhausted. Sudipto sir and I call this the illusion of busyness. You know, Constant activity without any intentional direction. You are like you're spinning wheels instead of steering your car. You know, Oprah's early life was ultimate lack of control. There was poverty, abuse, rejection. But what did she do? She shifted by focusing on what she could control, her responses, her boundaries, her daily choices. The trap is believing total control or no control are the only options. No. Measured and designed control is the third way. Control what matters most, release what doesn't matter the most. That is what this chapter is all about.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joy, for explaining the insights from this powerful research so well for our viewers. Thank you so much for that. Mrs. Joy, I am personally enjoying this conversation, and I'm sure our viewers are also enjoying this. However, because of the limitation of the time, probably I'm going to ask the concluding question of this particular session. And therefore, I'm going to ask the final question for this particular episode. And the question is like, Oprah Winfrey, this amazing lady has been able to completely transform her life. She has transformed her life from a situation wherein she had only the recipes for failure to a situation wherein it is completely mind blowing. What I would like to request you is that for our viewers, what are the actual practically implementable steps that you have been able to pick up from this particular research that our viewers can apply in their lives so that they can also craft a different path in their life, liberating from the mindset of being ruled by the present condition to completely writing a different chapter in their lives? Over to you.
Great question, first. Now, we have actually given an excellent blueprint for the readers of this book at the end of this chapter. Let's talk a little bit about it. Now, if you notice, Oprah's genius was realizing that she couldn't control circumstances, but she could design control over her responses. So that is what we focused on, and we have given you the exact blueprint in the book. Let's talk about that. First is you conduct a control audit. List life areas like career, finances, health, relationships, and for each write what you can control, like your effort, your boundaries, your choices, and write what you can't control, like others' actions or the economy, and then focus your energy only on controllables. Second, design your non negotiables. You know, three daily actions you control no matter what. Like for Oprah, she had a reading time, exercise, and reflection. Yours might be 20 minutes planning, family dinner, practicing a particular skill, whatever it is, but non negotiables. Third is create response systems. Triggers happen. So design automatic responses. Financial stress, you can have a system like review your budget, call your creditor, cut one expense of yours. You need to just ensure that you do not reactively panic. Fourth is set designed boundaries. Say no to 80% of requests. Protect time and energy for your priorities. Oprah fired her first TV job exploiters. Why? Because it is important to protect what matters. Fifth is build decision frameworks. For recurring decisions, create simple rules. Job offers, three criteria. Purchases over $100, 24-hour rule. So these remove your daily mental load. Next is you can schedule control blocks. Like 1 hour daily or even weekly for designing future. Goal systems, reflection. What did Oprah do? She journaled daily. So you should have your non-negotiable control time. Seventh is measure your weekly progress. Track your controllables. What workouts have you done? What skills have you learned? Eighth is reframe setbacks, which is one thing that we reiterate throughout this book. What can I control in this situation? Is the right way of thinking. Don't think why me. Just think about what can you control. Look at the learnings from failures. Opera turned her firings into opportunities by using this model. Ninth is curate inputs, control information, people, environment. Opera surrounded herself with growth minded people. Obviously, it helped her. 10th is daily declarations. I control my choices, I cannot control the outcomes. This shifts your mindset from victim to designer. This book has all the blueprints, as I always, at the cost of repeating myself, I always say, and readers report massive shifts. There is less amount of overwhelming and more amount of progress. And opera has proved that from rock bottom you can design empires. So, what is the bottom line? Start today. One non negotiable, one boundary, one control block. And these are your design control components. That's what this book has been talking about. This chapter specifically has been focusing on.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joaquin Bereze, for this amazing elaboration. Now we have come to the concluding part of this particular episode. I would like to sincerely thank you for those wonderful insights and for sharing your valuable time for our show, BookFlix Live. Thank you so much, Mr. Joy.
Thank you for having me on your show again. And it was excellent as usual. And thank you to all the viewers for your amazing response to the previous shows. And looking forward to your comments and interactions on this episode as well. So that is all for today. And goodbye for now. And eagerly awaiting our next interaction. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you like this session and you have got some values from this session. If you have got some values from this episode, please hit the like button and share this with some of your loved ones. I'd like to sincerely thank you for your love and support. We will meet again on next Sunday. Until then, we will meet again on next Sunday. Until then, stay joyful, stay happy, and stay successful. Bye bye. Good night.